Сегодня поговорим на такую интересную тему, которая на самом деле касается многих
We'll
крупных
talk
организаций.
about a topic that is relevant to many large organizations. How do you handle a million vulnerabilities and survive? For more than a year, I have been with MTS Bank,
Там работа в этом направлении
and
кипит. Когда
we
компания
are
может с такой
really
ситуацией столкнуться?
doing a lot of work there.
Здесь вот
So
предпосылки
when
перед
can a
ними,
company come across such situation? Some
проводит первое масштабное сканирование всего и выявляет, что там
of the possible scenarios are here in the slide. You get a new CISO in an organization and you have to do a lot of scanning. Second, M&A, when we buy companies
там первичное
and
сканирование.
we do
Дальше были
an initial
случаи,
scanning,
когда люди с этим сталкивались при
then
инцидентах. То есть раньше они жили, было все нормально, они сканировали.
when incidents happen,
Информационные
well,
системы,
previously they
бац,
only did routine scanning, and suddenly there's an incident,
задаваться вопросом, а где у нас еще есть
and they
уязвимости,
start
сканируют и
looking
выявляют
for
что-то
vulnerabilities, they
страшное.
do scanning, and they
Такое
really
миллион
find something
уязвимостей?
scary.
Миллион
Okay, what's
уязвимостей —
a
это
million
соотношение
vulnerabilities? That
айпишник
is
или клиент
essentially
плюс уникальной уязвимости.
an IP multiplied
Это
by a
примерно
unique
30 тысяч
vulnerability.
хостов,
That's
но на самом
approximately
деле,
some
поскольку эта проблема у меня в жизни случалась уже
30,000
много раз,
hosts, but I
то
did
и
come
на 100
across this
тысячах
problem quite a
хостов
few
тоже
times
примерно где-то
in
около
my
миллиона
life.
получается.
Even if you have
Это примерно 10
100,000
тысяч
hosts,
уникальных
there's
уязвимостей.
around a
Если вы
million of vulnerabilities. There's some
как результат
10,000 of unique vulnerabilities.
работ по обработке
And as a
можно
result of all this
продиктовать
processing,
5000 тикетов
you can come
без
up with
особого потери,
5,000
без особой
tickets
потери качества. Как
without
это
loss of
сделать?
quality. Here's how you do it.
Здесь написаны этапы обработки.
These are the
Я не буду
stages of
многие вещи
processing
с
or
презентации
handling.
зачитывать и рассказывать,
I
потому что я
won't
старался ее сделать
read
как
out from the presentation
инструкцию.
because I
Потом можно
tried
будет
to
изучить,
build it
почитать
as a
и
manual.
все детально
So later
изучить
you
внутри.
can
Для того, чтобы
read it
нам
at your convenience.
вообще приступить, в принципе, к обработке уязвимостей,
For us to
приоритизации,
start
необходимо их
looking at vulnerabilities, we need to enrich them with data. And the data that we need is FQDN, that is the host name, the owner that you can get from a CMDB, and
также для того, чтобы все эти
subnets.
данные как-то склеить, обработать,
To put all this data together, you can use either ClickHouse and Jupyter Notebook
тоже
or
годен для использования, и в презентации будут примеры именно для него.
Splunk, which is a free
Самая удобная платформа
solution.
для
In fact,
разработки.
Splunk is the
Итак,
most convenient
самый
platforms for such
важный
processing.
этап, начальный,
The
важный
most
этап — это
important
нормализация данных. Нам необходимо
initial stage is data normalization. We've got to
встречать с доменным именем, где-то
unify names because sometimes they do contain domain name, somewhere else they don't.
Так, что там написано? Проще отсюда читать. Привести к нижнему регистру нужно.
Then we need to make sure all records are lowercase and we use IP addresses where we don't have the FQDN. Otherwise, we will simply lose those fields. And we've got to consider the specifics of the platform where we do the processing. In Splunk, for example, the fields that are used for grouping, if they are not filled, it will just truncate those lines. To prioritize, you've got to have two stages. First
проводим, так сказать, предприоритизацию.
is when we do initial prioritization. From medium vulnerabilities, we are looking for high vulnerabilities. Sadly, they exist. For example, there's a security bypass risk, and for some reason that is seen as medium. I don't know why. And here's a Splunk request of how you can automate, elevate a vulnerability from medium to high or critical. When we get a list of critical and high vulnerabilities, and we put them together, we deduplicate them, we arrive at unique vulnerabilities, and we come up with 3,000 to 5,000 vulnerabilities, unique ones. We give them to a pen tester so that they, using their experience, looked through this list quickly and deprioritized some critical and high-risk things so that we could drop normally some 2,000 vulnerabilities. To do that, you don't need a lot of time. 2 to 4 hours of pen tester's time, and it's done. The next thing that we need to do is that the right prioritization list, we use it to do further work at all the subsequent steps. We can come up with a number of groups of lists: the exterior, ARM and VDI, because they are the easiest to patch. You can roll out essentially one patch on everything, and they're not as critical as servers. And finally, servers, the most difficult group, because they are administered by different people, they have different owners, so you've got to do a bit of sweating with them. And for the final prioritization, there are some criteria that, in my view, from the point of view of a pen tester, are the most important ones. And it's them that help us assess whether a particular vulnerability is critical or not in our context. And all of them are shown here. The next slide gives an example with a breakdown by weight and how to use this calculator. We put either 1 or 0, depending on whether a criterion hits, and then you calculate the final weight. And then it's up to you to decide what will be critical or what would be high. Say, if it's above 80 or 90, that would be critical. 70 to 80 would be high. Something like that, depending on your infrastructure. Importantly, these criteria have things that are not taken into account in many methodologies. Whether, for example, a vulnerability is exploited in phishing. And then we'll need to increase the level of criticality. The next step is the most interesting. Okay, so we've got a list of vulnerabilities, high and critical, that we believe are right for our infrastructure. And we have a link of IP or IQDN and the unique vulnerability. So how do we group it to have the lowest number of tickets? The first option that I see often in the companies where I worked, and the companies that people that I know work, they set a ticket for a particular host. They say, okay, so you've got this IP or you've got this host, and there are many vulnerabilities. Some are high, some are critical. And this approach has a lot of disadvantages and not a single advantage. I haven't been able to find a single one. The disadvantages are that first, you will have 30,000 tickets. Secondly, it wouldn't be possible for administrator to prioritize on the host what they have to patch in the first place. And it's difficult to roll out fixes. The next option is when we group by CVE. I don't like it either. We tell them, okay, here's the vulnerability, and many servers are affected. Why I don't like this one? Because if an administrator cannot patch a particular server, the ticket really lingers and is not addressed for a long time. And there's duplication. Say there's the Postgres, there are some vulnerabilities, some are high, some are medium. But essentially, all of that can be addressed with a single update. But we set up 20 tickets so that the administrator clicks through every one of them and close them out. The next one I like, but really it threatens the administrator's mental health.
Okay, with one host, with one unique vulnerability, we set a ticket. Well, what's good about it? Well, it's good because it is easy to automate, and we can have a look at the fixing process, and the admin can see the results of his effort almost daily. But just imagine the emotions. This guy gets 100,000 tickets and told to fix them within 2 weeks. Well, this is not good for the kind of emotional and psychological health of these guys. So they burn out to the level of forgetting all this stuff and just ignoring it. Well, for 4 years we worked in different companies, and we reached, I think, the best way, the best approach. We are now grouping them, and here we have a guy here who helped us do this. So how does it work? So we have a ticket for a unique piece of software. So we say, okay, so we have the list of servers you're responsible for update all of them, please. This way we can properly roll out upgrades or updates. We give them a clear solution what to do it. So update to the latest version, all of this. So we don't tell them, okay, to version 5, version 0.5.32. No. We say update it to the latest version. And you can roll out your updates, you can fan them out, but the admin doesn't get this crazy amount of ticket, and they feel much better emotionally. There are some negatives here, but they can be compensated. Like if the admin, for instance, gets rid of some service somewhere, they might forget or have not enough time for the other service. They will be kind of there in the long time. So how to compensate for this? So to kind of fix this, we have dashboards based on the vulnerabilities grouped, normalized through database. So we have this database, and we set statistics for risks committees and so on from this base. And dashboards for tickets are generated just for our own purposes, so that we don't lose anything. Okay, and how do we group this? Well, scanners have the CPE, common platform integration. But as practice shows, this is filled in by people. People are prone to mistakes, and as a result, we have one product, one piece of software, having several CPEs. This makes it difficult to deal with it. Sends it, say, as one word or with a hyphen, and so on. Many duplicates. So how can we solve the problem? We can use AI for kind of determining what kind of product it is, and to give us a list with a short title of this product. This is best done by DeepSeek. We tried different models, but DeepSeek performed the best. ChatGPT performed worst, irrespective of the prompts. But they do hallucinate. Sometimes they call NFS, Samba, SSL, SSH, and whatever. This can be treated because there are few hallucinations like that, and you need about 2 hours to kind of check it. To manually go through this list, you'll need about 12 hours full time. How do we visualize it? So we visualize it based on vulnerabilities, as I put it. We show the total of vulnerabilities, the increment of vulnerabilities. We show the percentage of fixed vulnerabilities, or we can show the share of delayed vulnerabilities. And we have 2 dashboards, one for admins, where we have statistics by vulnerabilities, and the other one is just for the tickets, to see whether admins have ticketed everything. To control this, you might use the Power BI platforms, like Power BI. You should use data, a special transfer data, because if we look at the initial sources, it doesn't work well, and the metrics we consider to be quite effective. For the internet, it's important to see how quickly we respond to vulnerabilities, but for the internal purposes, because we have a huge backlog, this metric is not going to be effective or efficient, and it will be scary for the top managers. So we should use the delayed metrics. So we come to the administrator, say, okay, we have 7 days to fix it. I understand that we cannot update firmware all this within this time. Let's agree upon the real time. Okay, we have agreed, and if they take longer than that, then it will be called delayed. Okay, that's it, and I'm here to share my presentation with you. Maybe ask questions?
Организаторы, скажите,
The organizers,
сейчас или
are questions allowed now?
Один вопрос. Хорошо.
Okay, one question. Great. Go ahead.
Вы используете ИИ для нахождения по уязвимости. А если это уязвимость в какой-то библиотеке, которая входит в состав ПО, то ИИ вам попадает?
Конечно. То есть его можно это натренировать, он вполне себе обрабатывает.
Sure, we can train it, and it will process the vulnerabilities in the libraries. And our scanning doesn't go through the active vulnerabilities, but we scan with authentication. So we look at the nuts and bolts of it. We look under the hood. And how do you build the process? You mean in terms of scanning? I mean everything. Okay, I got it. Okay, thank you very much.